Okay, we're going live.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
In 3, 2, 1,
And then hit
go.
the switch.
Hey, folks. Welcome to our Saturday night YouTube Live in support of our Purple Heart Project. It has been, Frick, did you tell me a month?
Just under a month, yep.
Just under a month. So, quick explanation. Bo and Mitch, so I have 10 children. Still have 3 living at home, and all but 3 live locally. Bo and Mitch, 2 youngest boys, came home from school, ended up that their principal had brought COVID with her, and they didn't tell the boys to do anything if they hadn't been contacted by the Department of Health and blah, blah. Anyway, it ended up that all of us got COVID, me and my wife, the 7 children that live here, their spouses, except for Frick.
Yep.
All my grandchildren. Kenzie's boyfriend Luke and his parents. And 2 of our employees. 20 of us in total. So it ended up shutting down our business for 2 weeks. Frick just got out of quarantine. He's in a unique situation. He just got out of quarantine yesterday, so he wasn't available to us. So anyway, we're back. We all survived. Ask me questions if you want. And let's start off. Have we got a question right off the bat so we can get going?
Sure.
Go, give it to me.
All right, this one comes from Russell Shelley in Haddon Heights, New Jersey.
Hi, Russell.
He says, what blades do you use on your fret saw that will easily slide down the kerf? Will standard number 7, 11.5 PPI work?
I use Olson 5-inch scroll saw blades, 12.5 TPI, that stands for teeth per inch, skip tooth. So a skip tooth simply means where there would normally be 3 teeth, there's only 2. So it means it makes for a bigger gullet. Bigger gullet allows the saw to cut faster because there's somewhere for the sawdust to go. And when a saw with very narrow set is going through the wood, as the wood is being cut by the tooth, the sawdust accumulates in front of the tooth, fills up the gullet, and like choking a throat on your plane, once the gullet is full, the saw can't cut anymore. So skip tooth cuts faster. So that's one. We sell them on our website if you can't find them. They're not very expensive. How much for a dozen? $6. Okay. And it'll fit down. I can't remember remember the
16 thou.
16 thou. And my dovetail saw, my standard dovetail saw has a kerf of 24 thou. And my new dovetail saw, which I'll tell you a little more about it, this is some of the ones I've been working on. The new 3/4 saw is 19 thou, so that'll still work on that one too. Next, Frick.
Kelly Graves in Seattle
Hi, Kelly.
says, plow planes and their uses. Should I have one in my shop?
I don't, but I mean, I have planes that kind of do the same type of thing. Primarily a shoulder plane, skew block plane. You could live without it. It depends a lot on what you're doing too. So if you're trying to do everything with just hand tools, then you could probably make a use for it. There's a core group of tools that you need, and they cover all of the procedures, and there's really not a lot of overlap. For instance, a shoulder plane, which is a good example. A block plane cannot do some of the things a shoulder plane can do. A bench plane, a 5.5 or 4.5, can't do what a shoulder plane does because the shoulder plane has a blade that runs all the way to both sides. Allows you to cut into a vertical surface. So once you've got all of the bases covered, you can go back in and you can start to specialize even further. And you can pick up planes. I mean, you don't have to have a chisel plane. You can do it with a chisel. But it's nice to have a chisel plane. The handle's positioned in such a way that it's a little bit easier to work with. So you can, it's good. I mean, Stanley at one point had a catalog that was about that thick. And all kinds of tools to do a particular function from multiple different approaches. So I guess I can leave it at that. Next, Frick.
Okay, next one comes from Richard Holden in Orem, Utah.
Hey, Richard.
He says
I lived in Provo for 6 years.
And I lived in Orem. You talk about your skew block plane often. Does it also go by any other name? I'm having trouble finding it somewhere to buy this type of plane.
Well, Lee Nielsen sells them, but they've been way behind. I don't know whether they're back up.
Or not.
Huh?
They're not.
As of when?
Yesterday.
Oh, really? So you may just have to wait on that. There's one other company that makes it. I don't like it, so I don't even talk about it. But if you're talking about the skew block plane for the function of cutting a rabbet on your
Top drawer.
tailboard, we've, thanks to Ken works here. By the way, Ken should be on tonight. Ken's son-in-law introduced us to this. This is automotive refinish masking tape. So I'll tell you why I like it. It's not as sticky as traditional masking tape, meaning it's removable, but it's a lot stickier than painter's tape, which doesn't have much use, and it's 5 thou thick, whereas a normal masking tape, let me just shut this off so we don't have to listen to it all night, although it's a lovely sound. Normal, this masking tape, painter's tape, is 4 thou. This is 5. So what I do, and several other people have, this is not I didn't dream up this idea, but it was introduced to me, is take 4 or 5 strips of this on your tailboard. Let me do it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to create some kind of a fence or a guide so that your tailboard will register properly with your pin board. So if you were to take, probably get away with 4 pieces, 4 strips, make sure they're on there good and solid. And then you take your marking gauge, and your marking gauge needs to be sharp in order to make this work. I already screwed up. Let me just, I'm out of shape. Literally. The one thing about COVID, it's only down for about a week, but it has a lingering effect in terms of your stamina.
Is it skipping?
I have no idea. This is a very rough example. I don't know why that didn't lay flat. Oh, I was just catching on the end grain of that piece of walnut. So what I would do now, after I put that on the end of my tailboard, I would come in with my marking gauge, and I would cut through it. It's always better to do multiple passes and try to do it all in one. And then you go in and remove that side of it. And what that will provide you with, I got some lousy examples here tonight, is a ledge that will register your tailboard over your pin board. And it actually holds, and it holds quite well. When you're done, you just take that off. Nice thing is you don't have to worry about it changing the dimension. So when you do a drawer, if you use the skew block plane, you're actually cutting into this, meaning the width of this drawer side is thinner here, pardon me, yes, thinner here than it is right here.
No, thicker.
I'm sorry, thicker here than it is right here. So that's going to change your outside dimension somewhat. You factor all that in. If you use the masking tape method, you don't have to, you don't even have to worry about it. And we sell that on our site now, the 3/4 and the 1.5 inch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good stuff, really good stuff. So in lieu of not being able to find a skew block plane readily available, go with that. If that was what you were the problem you were trying to solve, or the purpose you were buying it for. Next, Frick.
All right. Next one comes from Danny DeLotte in Oakland.
Hey, Danny, in Oakland,
Yep.
California.
He says, I noticed you never use holdfast on your bench. Why is that?
Never didn't do it way back when. So who would have been? Ian Kirby, who had a lot of influence on me, and Ian wrote a series of books, Down to a Line, and I can't remember. There's a whole series he was going to do. He never got through them all. Got the first 2 out. This goes back into the 80s, 1980s. but excellent material. But and Ian is still alive, English craftsman, and how would I characterize his method of work? It was very efficient. He didn't do stuff that like clamp down your board when you're when you're chopping your pins, because there was no need to. When you're chopping, and this is the reason why I probably never picked up using a holdfast, when you're chopping tails or pins, whatever, you're chopping straight down. There's no reason to clamp your board in place. It just throws in an extra step. It's not going to move anywhere because you're chopping straight down. So probably the single biggest reason that I never adopted a holdfast was because I never felt the need for it. And I was trying to earn a living building furniture with a lot of hand tool work and making $5 an hour. So you had to really chisel away at anything you did that wasn't absolutely necessary that would take more time. Make sense? Hold on a sec, Frick. So got a couple of notable mentions tonight. You notice in front of me, so Ernie, who is a friend of Luther's, big supporter of what we do out in Washington. If you've been paying attention to our website, Ernie restores old braces and egg beater drills, and then we sell them on our site. And he sent this set to me, so big thank you, Ernie. And I didn't even know this, but there were, in this case, at least 3 different braces made. And the difference is the amount of leverage you have. So if you look at where your chuck is, this was 8 inches away. 10, sorry. So you had lots of torque when pushing that bit down through the wood. And then you went from 10 inch down to 8 inch, which for a little tighter space, and then all the way down to 6 inch for an even tighter space. So
Could have been speed too.
yeah, that's true too. You can turn this one a little bit faster because you don't have such a wide arc to go through. It's all about rim speed. So he sent me those, thank you, and he sent me this, which is really nice. You may have, if you've watched me do anything of what I do, here's mine. And the problem with mine is there's a spring. I have never taken it apart to fix it, but there's a spring missing. So those 3 jaws, instead of being evenly spaced, there's these 2 are tight together. So when you put a drill in and you tighten it up, it's always slightly off center, and I've just kind of lived with it. But Ernie obviously was wanting to reduce some of my unnecessary stress in life. He sent me this one. And it's a 3/8 chuck, which is really nice because a lot of them are 1/4 inch, which limits how much your capacity. So this is a 3/8 chuck. It's a dual speed, which I think is really cool. So the easiest way to do this, I'm going to put a piece of masking tape on. Have we got any of these about to go up on the site, Jake? Since I'm talking about them?
A couple, yeah.
What? Egg beaters or braces? When do they go?
This week.
So sometime this week they'll go up on the site. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how many revolutions the bit would end up turning in relation to the handle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4. So then if I take this and move it over like that. Okay, now it will start right here. Move the piece of tape back. So it was a 4-to-1. So obviously that's fairly fast. But this one, 1, not quite 1.5. So why would you make the change? Well, if you had a larger diameter bit and you need a lot more torque, then you would want to slow it down. And otherwise, if you had a small bit in particular, you want speed, you would readjust it so that you could have the extra speed. Oh, and he also sent me, are we going to have any of these? Maybe.
Sporadically.
He also sent me a set.
We have a set right.
We have one for sale? Yes, we do. A set of bits, and these are in nice shape, and there's even the original manual that came in this wooden box. And I looked at this the other day. 1939 is the date on it. Actually, I wanted to read that, and just always interesting to see how they wrote and the kind of instruction they gave back then. Back when these were much more common tools. Is there a date on the inside of it? No. One set, made by Irwin in the US of A. Thanks, Ernie. Okay, next, Frick. We'll intersperse all of our little announcements with questions.
All right, next one comes from Kit Redmond in Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Kit, K-I-T?
Yep.
Hey,
He says, I just received my new RobCosman dovetail saw, the
Yahoo!
dovetail chisel, and a Sean shim. I'm going to give dovetails a go.
Such a lucky guy.
What wood is the best for practicing dovetails and developing my techniques?
Really good question. So he got, I don't think he's talking about our new 3/4 saw. So he just got a dovetail saw, the famous Sean shim. Where's mine?
In the pouch.
There. A Sean shim. And what else did he have?
Dovetail chisel. Half blind.
Half blind dovetail chisel. You're missing a few tools, but it's all right. So the question is, what's the best wood? Well, I'm going to show you something that might surprise you. I love answering this question, by the way, so thank you. It's almost as if you were a plant. When it comes to cutting dovetails, the single most important, I don't know if I want to call it a skill, maybe I should, skill that you have to have is you've got to be able to start your cut in the exact spot where you want it. I'm just looking for a piece of dovetail wood. If you can't do, well, let me explain the reasons why. If you can't get it started where you want it, then you're going to have to go in, and with a chisel, you're going to have to carve the shape of the tail to get where you should have, where you should have been able to saw. And when it comes to cutting the pin, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to carve the pin. Sadly, so many articles written on dovetails, in the middle of a big bruise, advise the reader to lay out the joint, cut away from the line, meaning don't cut right on the line, cut away from it, and then purposely go in there with a chisel and start paring back. Oh my goodness, that's such terrible advice. Whoever writes stuff like that doesn't know how to cut dovetails. Alan Peters, I was with him, we shot a video in his shop in England in 2005. And one of the comments he made, he said, Robbie said, I get invited to all the big gallery openings still. And I know all the well-known furniture makers. And he said, there's not one of them out there that will actually put the saw on the line and make the cut. They all cut away from the line and then pare back. And that takes so long. If you have a good dovetail saw, that's a good dovetail saw, it will provide you with a smooth, flat surface that will allow you to join right from the saw. Remember what I said earlier about what I really appreciate about Ian Kirby? It's efficient. Why make a single procedure and turn it into 3 or 4 procedures? And the minute that a new woodworker has to go in with a chisel and try to fix what the saw was supposed to do, chances of success just really drop off the chart. So, A, you have to have a saw. This is going to turn into a big infomercial. But, you asked. You have to have a saw that will provide you with a surface that is indeed flat and smooth. So what I'm doing, I'm just cutting off a piece, and I'm going to get to your question, which wood to start, but I have to answer it in a logical way. Okay, so there's the saw cut. Now I'm going to flip it around so that we're not matching grooves. And when we put the two pieces together, we should end up with an invisible joint, meaning flat and smooth, it goes together, you get a good joint. Whether you're turning it like that or like this, either way, tail comes up against the pin and you've got a good joint. You don't have to do anything to it. And the flatter and the smoother it is, the better the joint's going to be. So, providing you have that saw, do we have these on sale right now, or is the free shipping? Mm-hmm. Okay, worth mentioning. If you've got the right saw, now all you have to do is you've got to go in, after you've laid out your joint, let me do this. May as well use a dovetail marker and a pencil or pen. I'm going to go in, I'm going to lay that out. By the way, dovetail marker like that allows you to do two marks, the angled face, square across the end with one setting. Every time you can remove a procedure, one less thing to screw up on. Now what I need to do is I need to be able to go in, I need to make this cut exactly where I want. Now I would identify with an X the waist side. So I'm cutting on my right side of that line. My saw has little tiny teeth up front, and those little teeth allow you to start the kerf without any resistance. So I come in here, I line the saw up to that mark, and I make my cut. Now if you look really close, that line, that cut is parallel to that line. I don't have to do anything to it. You've got to get to a point where you can do that. By the way, so we have our new 3/4 saw. It's got a thinner blade designed for smaller work. Cuts wonderfully. Just thought I'd throw that in. You've got to go in and be able to make that cut perfectly. Now, what happens is most people are plenty strong enough to do it, but what they lack is they lack that fine motor skill, and it's not something they can't develop, they just haven't used it. So you're coming at this from brand new, and you might be all over the board. You can't hone it right in so it's exactly where you want. So what I suggest is start off, depending on where your skill level is, try pine. That's a piece of northern white pine. That's easy to cut. Yeah, you can go less. You can get a piece of basswood, so even softer, or cedar. Have we got a piece of cedar here, Jake? Should be.
Yeah, no, right here.
Where?
Right there on that dumpster bin.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to show you a piece of, it's terribly long. This is northern white cedar. So this would be comparable to, actually, it's harder than most other cedars that I know of.
It is?
Huh?
It is?
I'm sorry, it's softer than most other cedars. This stuff you can,
Step above
you know,
styrofoam.
with your, yes, it is, just one step above. So you can go in and maybe you need to do that. And what I would suggest you do is nothing more than, now, I can't see that, and neither can you.
Use the blue.
Better. Make a whole bunch of perpendicular marks. Make sure they're perpendicular. Don't get sloppy, because your saw is following that line, so your cut can only be as good as the line is. And now you're going to come in there, and with a really soft wood, there's little to no resistance at all, and that allows you to focus on your technique before you have to add the muscle to move through something like maple or cherry or birch. Now, if you find that you can't get it started even smoothly, and that's what, when I say smoothly, is you don't want it jumping around on you, then you can go to this. Get a piece of high-density styrofoam. Now, Jake made the comment, that last one was just one step beyond this. So if you can't do this one, then you might be in trouble. Make your marks. And remember, this is just all about technique before you have to introduce the extra effort. What I'm trying to do is concentrate so that that blade stays parallel to that line through the starting process. And once you can do it in that and it's a piece of cake, then when you go to a piece of cedar, a piece of pine, or a piece of basswood, and you just move up. And what you're doing is you're going from getting the technique down to now you're going to strengthen and train those muscles that are used in the sawing process. And then it's a piece of cake. I walked a lot. Every once in a while, not very often, someone will call and say, I can't get this saw to work. It will not start. I said, okay, let's back up a little bit. And I've cut dovetails and this, that, and whatever. And I can't think of a case where within a couple of days, I didn't have that same customer say, you're right, it works beautifully, I can't believe it, blah, blah. And it's just a matter of kind of retooling a little bit, taking a different approach. But if you walk through that process of practicing in something really soft, it'll come to anyone. Okay, won't take as long to answer the next question, which is, Frick?
Actually, you want to say hi to some vets?
Yes, I do. If you're a combat wounded vet that has been in one of our classes, love to acknowledge that you're here. I want to give a big shout out to Kyle Perrell in Newfoundland.
He is here.
Yes, I knew he. I was talking to him earlier, or emailing with him. So Kyle recently volunteered to build a bench for Eric Helmerson. It does not. It's a lot harder to pronounce than it looks. And Eric joined the Army, Canadian Army, at age 50. Had his 59th birthday in the front lines in Afghanistan. Commander brought his birthday cake out to him. Actually fought alongside his son. Well, Eric came to our class. That was the only class we've been able to squeak in since the fall of 2019. We had back in September. And we now have a program thanks to Jack Lane and guys like Chris Chahusky and Jim Merzetti up in Moncton, and so many more, hundreds literally. And it's called the Bench Brigade. And what these guys do is they volunteer. I'm going to show you because they just brought us down a couple benches. They volunteer to build a bench to our specs, and deliver it when possible directly to the combat wounded vet. And it's a fantastic program. Just, you ever get a chance to talk to Jack, he'll tell you the stories, because all our volunteers do one, then they want to do another one and another one, because there's the way it makes you feel to be able to give something back to these men and women that literally put everything on the line, so many of them. I want to talk to you a little more about that tonight. So big shout out to Kyle. Kyle has got Eric's bench built, and he is going to deliver it. It's a 10-hour drive. Now, in Newfoundland, 10 hours is nothing. Everywhere else, it's halfway around the world. But he is going to deliver it. I think he and a friend are going, and they're going to, sometime this week, they're going to make that long drive to deliver it so we can actually meet Eric. And I think that'll be awesome. Boys, make sure you take a video of that so we can put it on our Facebook page. Who else is on there, Frick?
We have Doc Bailey.
Hey, Doc.
Kevin Smith.
Doc is Vietnam-era Army, Navy corpsman.
Kevin Smira.
Hey, Kev, brother, how you doing?
Bob Abbott is here.
Bobbert, okay, stop right there. Stop right there. I'm keeping coming, but just hold on a minute. Still got a bit of a cough. So, been thinking a lot lately. The one thing about when you had COVID, I tested positive on Monday, felt fine. So I moved into the shop. We shut the shop down for 2 weeks. I moved in here so I could stay and work. And I managed to work right up until Saturday night. And Saturday night, it kind of hit me. So then the next week, I didn't do anything. I'd wake up in the morning and just wait for it to get dark so I'd go back to sleep. But I did a lot of thinking. And what's always been on my mind is we bring these vets in we train them, we give them tools, we give them a bench, we send them home with some enthusiasm, but then it's over, right? We try to reconnect through this and whatever other means we can, but some of them really get into it and want to move forward and make a business out of it. They love building the stuff. Some of the stories I hear about how it's literally saves them because of its ability to allow their mind and their whole being to focus on the task at hand, and it's the creativity of woodworking and all that stuff. Fantastic. So Bob was the first one I really thought about because Bob had gone home. Bob came back a second time. Bob came to our class up in Ontario, and then Bob came back as an assistant. We bring back one vet from each, excuse me, each time we teach, we try to bring back a vet from a previous class, and we bring him in as our assistant. It gives us a chance to reconnect. And Bob had come with another combat wounded vet that he'd recommended. And Bob went back, and he started up a maker space, and he was trying to help other vets do this, but it's tough, right? I mean, that's there's a lot involved in that. But Bob has a website, The Vintage. I'm going to ask you to do something tonight. Stop right there. If you're watching this, you're most likely a patriot. You're a big supporter of what we're trying to do, and I would expect you're sympathetic to the cause. So what I'm going to ask you to do is this. Spread your Christmas shopping out a little bit. And consider, I'm going to give you a couple of websites tonight from these guys that have been in our class we're trying to work with. Take a look at what they make, and if you like it, hey, maybe buy something from them. Really great to give somebody a unique gift that they can't find anywhere else. And I don't make any excuses for their quality because there's no need to. So I got talking to Bob, and I said, Bob, we've got this platform that we've built. We've got how many people in our website? Our YouTube channel has 214 or 15,000 subscribers. Our newsletter has 21 or 22,000 people that say that I'm interested, I want to hear. And I said, we can use that platform to give you guys some exposure to help you in that initial phase of getting your business going. So we're going to build a page. Luther's in on this. We'll have a page. We will highlight their work. And then when we do something like this, we'll highlight even further. So I need you back on line. You ready? You tell me when.
Yep.
Okay. So this little table right here represents the vintageveteran.com. And I bought this stuff. I bought these two, actually, from Bob. I really like that one and that one. And then he sent me two others, and I'm going to show you them in a second. But this is Bob's cutting board. I forget what he calls it, but I think it's really cool. It's thick, it's heavy, and it's just, I think it's awesome. I really like it. In fact, we're going to give that away tonight on our draw. So for every $1,000 that gets donated to the Purple Heart Project, we're going to give away a prize. But you can't have it until Bob sends me another one. And I bought that retail from Bob, so don't want you to think that we're taking advantage of Bob. And this one I really like as well. Now that's a bread cutting board. This is more of a sweet bread cutting board. Really cool. And we'll give that one away as well. This one was made specifically for Super Goat Dave Benson, the Great White Hunter. Somehow maybe we'll get this story told on how he got his deer just recently. So the deer antlers on top. Now I got to park right there for a second before we introduce Jeff. Come over here. So you'll notice that we're alone tonight, just frickin' Jake and I. And that's usually we have a big crew here. So this is Moose. The Moose usually sits here.
Moose didn't die.
Moose didn't die. Could have. He just was released from the hospital today. Here's a guy who's 73 years old. I would call him a competitive hockey player that still plays 3 to 6 times a week, and went from that to not being able to dress himself and just near dead. And went into the hospital. They did a battery of tests, And I'm pretty sure they found out what was wrong. They started treatment last night, and they released him today. So thank goodness he's on the mend. Well, he didn't even know this, but Bob, who knows moose because of being around, made a special cutting board, a moose cutting board. Notice the antlers. So this represents moose. Now, I want you to do something else tonight. If you haven't, or if you thought about it, you want a really nice present, here's your chance. Pat'sSecretGarden.com, that's Moose and his wife's business. And you've heard me talk about the Dead Cat sweater. Now we have them with the Purple Heart logo. And this is the warmest garment you will ever put on. It's incredible. And we also have the happy sweaters. These belong to my 2 grandsons. I begged them to let me borrow them tonight. And those are on Moose's site as well. They're cute. They're warm.
Peruvian wool.
Yes, they're made in Peru, handmade in Peru. So each one's going to be just a little bit different. So big shout out to Moose tonight. Show him some love. Pat'sSecretGarden.com. Go on to Bob's site and see if you might want something like that. That's what we're going to give away. Also going to give away Dead Cat sweater tonight, and the Peruvian. We'll give away three sweaters over there as well, the little happy sweaters. Now I'm going to do some more questions, and I'm going to talk to you about
Right,
Jeff.
you were saying hello to...
Yep.
Oh, well, again,
Well, let me mention these ones before I forget.
okay.
Kevin Burris is here.
Hey, Kev. Well, Kev's the one I'm going to talk about.
Oh,
Now I'm going to want to talk about him. So put that on hold for just a second. Give me one more question, then we come back to Kevin.
okay.
All right. Well, I know Kev.
Okay. So Jeremy Hurst in Auckland, New Zealand says there's a lot
Hey,
of
Jeremy, in Auckland.
yeah.
So it's about 13 hours difference, I think. Oh, that's all right. It's tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
He says there's a lot of conflicting information out there for hobbyist woodworkers, especially when it comes to using hand tools. What would you say is the worst advice or misconception that beginning woodworkers are being told?
Saw away from the line and then compare back to it. That's probably that's my pet peeve. There's a lot, so let me see if I can get rid of some of it. I was talking to a chap today, and he ordered a 4,000 and 8,000 grit stone, Shapton stone. And I thought, no, that's not a normal order. I've been doing this long enough that I know what people typically order, especially if it's a first order. So I called him. I try to call every customer after they place their first order. I got a little bit behind because that COVID week I didn't do much at all. So I'm behind. If you've ordered in the last 2 or 3 weeks and haven't heard from me, I'll get to you. So I called him up, and he said, I'm just new at this, and I kind of thought I didn't really want to go right to the 16. I'd start with try the 8 first. And when we went through the whole process, I said, well, why spend this amount of money knowing that you're eventually going to want to spend and buy this?
Just a second. Bob is saying that my computer got the Rona. I'm going to blame it on Bob because it actually froze. My computer actually froze when I loaded his
Talking to
website.
Luther?
No, I'm talking to everybody. We are back, I believe.
Audio?
Yeah.
So can I continue?
Yeah. Talk
I
to
don't
this.
see the light on the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
All right. Sorry about that. Frick's fault. Frickin' Bob. So the question was, what's some of the bad advice given to brand new woodworkers? And my point was, buy the best. If you're thinking, well, I'm not sure I want to continue with this, you buy the junk, you're stuck with it. Nobody wants your junk. You buy the best. I'll use Lee Nelson as an example. You can buy a Lee Nelson plane or saw, and pretty much any time of the year you can put it on for sale and get anywhere from 90 to 125% of its value. So try doing that with something you buy from the hardware store. Not going to happen. So buy the very best gear. Not only that, the best gear, you only have to learn how to use it. You don't have to learn how to compensate for it. So I'm a huge proponent of buy the very best tools that you can get. It'll make the process more enjoyable, and the chances are you're going to stick with it because you'll like it instead of being frustrated. And if I can come up with another bit of bad advice, I will. But I can't think of it right now because this pause threw me off. Okay.
You may as well
give me one more question. I'm going to come back to Kevin.
do it now. My questions aren't up yet.
Okay. So Kevin Burris. Kevin is EOD, stands for retired, medically retired, stands for Explosive Ordnance Disposal. And that's a bad job. One of the most dangerous jobs. His job was to go there and try to disarm things like IEDs, so they didn't before they blew up our guys. Anyway, after multiple, unbelievable number of explosions, the last one really did him in, and messed up his head so bad with TBIs, traumatic brain injuries. I know he said he had to learn to walk again. Just a heart-wrenching story on what he went through. Which camera are we on? This one? Okay. So, Super Dave, that would be Super Goat Dave, introduced us to Kevin because they're both from around the Fort Drum area, which is northern New York. And I can't remember how they actually met. They may have actually been the same veterans group or something. But I said, well, and at the time we were doing a lot of woodworking shows in Southern Ontario. So I said, Dave, well, bring Kevin with you. So Kev started coming. This is before he came to the class. And Super Dave, so every combat wounded vet that comes to our class gets what's called a blue chip. And a blue chip simply means you guys, you combat wounded vets, know best who needs what we do. So if you know someone that really needs to be in the class, you use your blue chip. They're an automatic in. They have an automatic in. So Super Dave used his blue chip on Kevin, and Kevin came to our class. And I'd already had him. We already worked with him numerous times at the wood shows, and just so watch the change occur. That's the most miraculous and best part of this whole thing is watching this change occur, this transformation that takes place in such a short period of time. You can actually see it. It still boggles my mind. Like what goes on that makes such a life-altering change? If you want, you there's Kevin wrote about his experience in the comment section on our page on our website, where under the classes. Anyway, so Kevin is trying to get a woodworking business off the ground as well. Now, he's mixed his hand tool skills with laser, and you can go to his site. Oh, Kev, tell me the name of the site. I think it's really simple. Burris, B-U-R-A-S Woodworking. I'm almost positive. Kev, please correct me if I'm wrong. I looked it up earlier, and then I forgot to write it down. BurrisWoodworking.com. And you can go on, you can see some of the stuff that Kevin does. And if you see something on there, he makes urns and uses a laser engraver to really personalize that. And just watch how that's going to progress over the next little while, because Kev's part of our group that we've recently started. So Kev, nice to have you on here, brother. Fantastic.
And Gary Burnett is here as well.
Hey, Gary. Gary's always with us. Gary's down in Tennessee. He's probably missing Danny Bell. Danny and his family recently moved to Maine. It's a long haul from Nashville, Tennessee. And I've been in contact with Danny a lot in the last little bit too, so you'll watch some things progress there. Rick, question before I move on?
Yeah, this is kind of on the same topic. Tom Vincent in Plymouth, Michigan.
Hey, Tom.
He says, I have 3 cousins that are veterans. How do I encourage them? How do I encourage the PHP vets to allow the woodworking to help them? Or how does he encourage them to kind of take the course, I guess?
Well, so let me lay this out for you. In order to obtain one of our scholarships, you need to be a combat wounded veteran, meaning you have sustained either physical or mental wounds while in combat or in a combat zone. So if that's your situation, you apply. You go to RobCosman.com under the PHP, which is on the top left, and there's an application form in there, all the information you need to fill out. You need to be particularly articulate in the section that says, more or less, tell us your story. We don't know you. And we are trying to operate this like triage, meaning we try to take the people that need it the most. So talk to us like you would talk to your therapist. You're not going to exaggerate, and you're not going to leave it, you're not going to skip over stuff that really needs to be. We need to know your situation so that we can help if at all possible. So that's the process. If they want to come as a paying customer, then by all means, as long as there's an open spot. The problem we're running into, I wish I could do something about this, but my hands are tied. Our last class was in the fall of 2019. So we had we had 6 classes filled with both combat wounded vets through your scholarship and paying customers. 6 classes in 2020 that were all, of course, wiped out because of COVID. They closed the border. So then we thought, okay, well, this will be over with. So in 2021, we plan to have an additional, how many
1.
classes? Just 1?
But we also were adding a student.
Oh, yeah,
So
we
we
added
opened up
a
13
student to each class, and we added an extra class. Well, that all got wiped out. So now we've got all of these people, very few of whom wanted a refund. They all wanted to hold their position. So we had all these people piling up, trying to get into classes that we weren't able to have, and we just had to keep canceling them because they hadn't opened the border. We managed to sneak in our one and only in September. That was for Canadians only because it wasn't a border issue for us, as tough as it was. We had one planned for October. That got wiped out because of COVID situation locally, literally. So applying for a class, I don't even know what to tell you. Just stay tuned, and you never know, a spot may open up. We haven't published next year's classes yet. I just feel like, why get these people, disappoint these people, if we can't know for sure that we're going to be able to run the classes. But Jake seems to think we're going to be able to get back in April. As far as what will it do for them?
Well, his question was, what can he do to get them to embrace woodworking?
Okay, so if somehow you want to talk to Bob Abbott or Kevin Burris or Danny Bell or David Benson or any of the vets that have spoken up tonight, said here, I'm looking over here at Jeff O'Connor. There's been 95 that have come through our program. Kyle Perrell. Somewhere in that chat, just say, can you tell me what it did for you? And they'll be happy to. And their stories are incredible. And they're life-saving, they're life-altering. I feel unqualified to relay their story because nobody can tell it like they tell it. So just ask. Any one of them will be willing to help. Question, Frick?
Yep. Where'd it go?
How's our audience tonight?
We have 606 right now.
Okay.
This question comes from Kent Boys in
I know Kent.
Southampton, Ontario.
Hi, Kent.
He says, sharpening, carving chisels. What method do you recommend to use?
I'm sorry, carving chisels?
Yeah. What method do you recommend to use for first timers and for the more experienced?
Yep. Okay. So we have a video that you can still buy the actual DVD, or you can get it on demand with Sharpening with Chris Pye, and that'll answer. Watch that, and that will tell you. Chris is probably the best at it. Very good teacher. I don't do enough of it to feel like I can give you the answer that you need, but that video is worth every nickel that's spent on it.
You're covering your mic.
That video is worth every nickel you would spend on it. It's fantastic, and it'll teach you how to sharpen gouges. And Chris is an expert at it. So I'm going to defer to that. I apologize that it costs money, but it costs money. If I was a carver, I'd blabber on forever, but I'm not. Okay, now I want to talked about Moose, talked about Bob. So over here, my corny little display. This is a table with a pillow on it. Now, I live what some might call a busy life. As I mentioned, my wife and I have 10 children, same wife. We have our business. Up until a month or so ago, I played hockey a lot. That was my stress reliever, kept me in shape. And I typically would come in here in the morning, 8 or 9 o'clock, and I would stay here until 1 o'clock in the morning or later. So that was my life. I came here, ran things. When everybody was gone, we did our filming and got to work on stuff that I needed to work on, and did that 6 days a week, church and family on Sunday, and back at it again. So not a lot of extra time. Well, I don't have to shave, only once a week, and not because I don't grow facial hair, but I'm here by myself. I'm the boss. I do whatever I want. But I shave so that I look halfway decent on Sunday for church. And I have a lot of kids. My father never gave us an allowance, but always gave us opportunity to earn money. We're the same way. We never gave our kids allowance, but if you want to earn money, we'll find a job for you. So Bo and Mitch, Bo's 17, Mitch is 15. I pay Bo currently to shave me. So I get the whole hot towel treatment. So I lay there and relax, and I have Bob Proctor and meditation stuff going on. And I was telling this to Jeff the other day, and you'll hear how this fits in. It's this thing, something I look forward to every week. It is my moment to relax. Lasts for about a half an hour, and I get there and I just completely zone out. And the hot towel treatment and the whole bit. Well, the whole bit includes what Jake got me last Christmas. Jeff makes shaving brushes out of natural. What's that bristle?
It's badger.
Badger. But this one is made out of bog oak. So they kind of, they wanted to make this really special. So Alan Peters was my mentor, and Alan Peters loved working bog oak. Bog oak was oak that was sunk in a peat moss bog for centuries, and it turned it black. So well, Jeff doesn't have a website, but you can find him on we got to work on this, Jeff. Find him on Facebook. O'Connor Woodworking?
Instagram.
Yep. O'Connor Woodworking?
Yep.
Okay. And he sells through Etsy? Just contact him on there. So it's the best. It is the best. So I set that there like that, and this is a mug that Jeff left with me. Jeff actually retires. He also is an EOD, Navy EOD. That's his challenge coin that he gave me when he was here. And he retires next month, and he plans to woodwork full time. I want to help these guys in any way I can get their business off the ground. I think they deserve our business, providing that they provide a quality product. And of what I own from those two, 100%. So check them out. And I can't say enough about the shave that I get. I pay them, by the way. I pay them $15 to shave me, which is good money for a 17-year-old. I got a few cuts in the beginning, but they're getting much better at it. It's always a nice, close shave, but it's dandy. Anyway, glad you're here, Jeff. All right, Frick, next question. Oh, no, another vet to shout out to?
Nope, Megan's taking care of that.
Okay.
I don't know if we said that if you are a vet in the chat, just type @ and then Megan, MEAGAN. You'll see her in there, and then you can let her know that you're here, and then we'll give you a shout out.
And Megan, I might add, is great with child. Due in a week, Jake?
I don't know. Today, tomorrow.
Today, tomorrow, really?
Well,
right away.
sure.
Could be anytime.
So there'll be another little rug rat very soon.
Okay. This one comes from Drago Dishev.
Drago?
Yep, in Santa Barbara, California.
In Santa Barbara. Been there. Lovely spot.
He says, does polishing of the plain sole make any difference, and do you recommend it?
Polishing of the plain sole?
Yep.
Not really. Now, I said that, Jake, what plane did we test recently, and the plain sole was just like it was asphalt. It was so coarse.
It was that Calistro.
Calistro?
Yeah.
So some of the real cheaper brands, The sole was so rough. It must have been ground with
Asphalt.
20 grit. It was terrible. That, yes, but I wouldn't never spend the money on that to begin with. But the way your Lee Nelson is going to come, the way your Wood River is going to come, the way your Clifton's going to come, you don't have to do anything to it at all. And it'll get polished from use. It'll also get scratched. So if you're polishing it because you like to have it all nice and shiny, that's not going to last very long, and you're going to end up with scratches in it. But let it work polish, and it'll be fine. So my answer to that is no. There's better things you can do with your time than polish the sole of your plane, because it won't stay polished. At least not the way you would do it, just because of the scratches it'll end up with. So I'm going to show you something else real quick. These should be ready this week. So Kevin Lasky is actually kind of working here now. And Kevin's the artist that did all of the MASH stuff for us in the mess hall. And he's also doing the portraits on the Joe Power workshop, which is what we call our classroom out there. And I said to Kev, Kev started this. He's a carpenter by trade, but he likes to paint. He really does incredible work, I think. He specializes in pets. So if somebody has a dog that had died and they have a picture of it, Kevin will create the picture that you never had. And you can find him at, what's his website, Frick?
Facebook page.
No, Frick built him a website.
Well, it's just a website link. It's mirroredimpressions.com.
Mirroredimpressions.com. Can you put that up?
Sure.
So I asked Kev, I said, Kev, can you make a Christmas card for us? I'm a huge MASH fan, so if you'll remember, in the first season, Hawkeye was playing Santa Claus. They were going to have their Christmas party, and all of a sudden a call came in that there was a severely wounded soldier in a foxhole under fire. No time to change. So Hawkeye jumped in the Bell helicopter with the pilot, and with his medical bag, and he let him down under fire. He let him down with a rope into the foxhole to help that soldier. And I thought, well, that's kind of what we do. And speaking of Santa Claus, big shout out to Santa Claus, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, for all that they do to help. It's actually too much to mention, and they don't want it mentioned, so I'll leave it at that. But we appreciate you. So you'll be able to get You'll be able to get those Christmas cards, PHP Christmas cards, soon. I hope we'll put it out on our newsletter as soon as it happens. Next question, Frick.
All right, next question comes from Alfred Borg in Melbourne, Australia.
Hi, Alfred, in Melbourne, which is 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. He says, my nephew started to get involved in woodworking as a hobby, and I want to get him his own hand plane for Christmas. Would a new Stanley Bailey plane number 4.5 be good enough for him to learn on? He is 13 years old. Thank you.
No. And I'll tell you the reason why. The very best Stanley plane ever made had a blade that was 85 thousandths of an inch thick. That's not very thick, which means it's very difficult to sharpen freehand. It vibrates or chatters because it's so thin. So it's the Achilles heel in the planes. And if it's a new Stanley plane, then don't buy it at all because it's junk. So if you want somebody that you think is going to enjoy this and you want to put gas on that fire, give them a good plane. Give them something that, they're not going to have to replace. I could never understand that philosophy. Why would you buy something or give something to someone knowing full well that if they take this any further, they're going to want to replace that? Give them the stuff that they're going to have the best chance of exceeding and going forward. I would personally, even if he's the age that you said, which 15? How old?
Sorry, he's 13.
13. Yeah, it might be a big 13. Get him a 5.5 Wood River. 5.5 Wood River. We'll do it all up for you, and the kid will be thrilled. And who knows, maybe he'll really get into it, and it'll keep him out of trouble. I know I survived my teenage years, and most of it was spent in my shop down in my father's in our basement. So there's a lot to be said for the therapy of woodworking in its in its ability to allow you to focus. It pulls in your creativity. It's just fantastic. Do it. Next question, Frick.
Jake, do we have another battery for that camera?
Yeah.
Which one?
The secondary.
Okay, which camera are we on right now?
The secondary.
Let me know when you switch.
Okay, I'm going to switch right now.
Okay, let me show you a couple other things. So we came out with a new saw. Well, we've been talking about it forever. And that new saw, we released it. What are you pointing at?
No.
We released it. Careful, you don't break your neck when climbing on that chair if you're about to do that.
No.
We released our new 3/4 dovetail saw. I want to give you a little bit of history on it, but I'm going to have a friend come in and do that sometime soon. COVID threw our whole month off. It's called the Len Robichaud 3/4 saw. Len Robichaud was the father of a good friend of mine, John Robichaud, and Leonard was a French Canadian. Joined the Canadian Army and fought all the way through World War II. Was severely wounded numerous times, but healed up, went back into battle, and survived and came home. Miraculous story of his mother and how she saved her son. I'll leave it at that. But he had this really cool little saw and I knew Leonard, very nice man. This cool little dovetail saw that he had given to John, and I just thought it was the neatest little thing, and I thought I want to make.
Did you ever check the thickness of the handle? Is it 3/4?
It looks to be about. I wanted to at some point make a saw that size, so we went to work on it, and Patty Tack, sorry I forgot to sign your saw. I can't believe that, but we'll take care of it. So I went through several prototypes, and we finally got the one we wanted. We released it 2 weeks ago, and on the day we released it, we had a little contest. I told all the guys that work in the shop and the gals, I said, whoever comes close to guessing how many we sell in the first 24 hours gets a $100 gift certificate to the Suwana restaurant. I remind me to talk about them. And Ken's wife, Pam, guessed it. We sold 86 in the first 24 hours. Anyway, so I've been working on some wooden handled ones. So this first one, which is almost ready to go in the box. So this is black and white ebony. Really cool stuff. However, Jake had bought a bunch of it, and it was so cracked and checked up, I only managed to get one handle out of it. These will be on our website sometime this week. I'll just show you a few more of them, because there's some really pretty pieces. So here's one. Here's a piece of Cocobolo, and usually you don't have that kind of oranges on it, but the dark colors on the one side and the oranges on this side. I've got two pink ivory. Now, a lot of times with this wood, there's checks. They're not very deep, and they've been filled with epoxy, so there's no problem with them. But that's going to make a beautiful handle as well. Beautiful saw. Here's one, Macassar ebony. And you almost need the natural daylight in order to appreciate the color. It gets lost inside, but lovely wood. Another Cocobolo, which has got a little bit of sapwood up on the top. Feels great in the hand. Thought I had more than that.
Yeah, the snakewood somewhere.
Oh yeah, there's a snakewood one I'm working on there. A U. Anyway, I just kind of do these as I didn't feel like doing a whole lot that first week. Energy level was low, but I was working on those, so that's what we did. Okay, next question, Frick.
All right, next question.
Oh, I got to say hello to Angie. I have a new picture. Angie is...
No, to the left.
There it is. Yeah, so that. So Ken Anthony, Ken has been working with me now for several years. Ken's in charge of all the production. And Ken's cousin, her name is Angie. She's confined to her bed because of an illness. But she works for us. You see her, she's got her new hat on, her RC woodworking hat. And she and her sister, Lynn, they package up all of our T-shirts. So when they get to you, it'll be nicely packaged with a little seal on there, and her stamp of approval, which is an A. And thank you, Angie. Next question, Frick.
All right, comes from Jerry Gillette in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Jerry.
It says, can you explain how your wooden bench dogs are made and how they function?
Wooden bench dogs? Yeah. I probably could use metal, but I like these ones. I need to make new ones because these have kind of gotten shot. In fact, as hard as I thought that wood was, I don't know if you can tell, but it's all dented in just from being clamped against.
That's good. That's from clamping Curvex 10s.
Curvex 10s?
Yeah, the round
squeezing
end of the
them
handle.
and putting them together. So this is how it works. There is a piece of babinga that is somewhat of a short, fat T. And then there's a similar shape cut into this. Now, in order to do that, I made, you can't, you can buy a bit that cuts a T-slot, I think it's called. But what I did first is I took a straight bit and I made a cut all the way down to here. Now, ignore this piece for now. And then with most of that waste removed, I was able to go in and make that T-slot. Then I drilled a hole about that far down, right in the middle here, and another one right there. And I drilled corresponding holes in this piece of babinga. Didn't go very far, maybe 1/16 of an inch, but they were in the same. So when that piece was put in place, those holes, the holes that I drilled in this piece, lined up with the little small shallow hole I drilled in that piece. And then I took the springs out of a couple of ballpoint pens. And how did I do that?
You must have had something covering the first
I did. I had something covering the hole so that you push the spring in, you slide this, and this had to slide into place. And when you got it perfectly into place, the spring would pop into that little indent so that it would keep it in place. But I had to cover that hole with something. I probably had just a piece of shim stock or something that I just held in place until I got it there, and then I just pulled it out. In fact, that makes sense, and that would work that way. So what you have is a spring-loaded T that gives you the resistance you need so that when you put your bench dog in there.
Just enough.
Yep, it'll hold. Now they make brass ones that have a little ball bearing, a spring-loaded ball bearing, but the problem is the ball bearing is so small, in no time it wears a groove so that it won't work anymore because it's gone beyond where the spring would apply enough pressure to keep it from dropping. Next question, Frick. A big shout out to Luther. Luther's in Seattle. His wife is in Hawaii enjoying herself. Luther's at home working away feverishly.
Answering the questions in the chat.
Super Dave and answering all the questions. So
Super Dave's still in recovery.
Super Dave, also known as the GOAT, landed a big buck. That story has to be told at some point, I promise you. Just not tonight. We have to have the right person tell it. So no details will be lost. Ken's on tonight, I know. I'm pretty sure. Okay, Frick, next.
Okay, next one comes from Dave Wood.
Hey, Dave.
It's a very timely question. He says, "Do you have a list of best woodworking books?"
Oh, you know what? Rather than answer that question, when's that being released?
I thought
Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yep.
So Tuesday on our YouTube channel, we're releasing a video we just did. We shot last week on my favorite text. And I'll go through briefly each one of them. So I'm going to put that off. Just watch. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do it. And you'll be notified as soon as it comes out, especially if you hit the notification bell. Sorry, if I answer the question, I'll spoil it for everybody.
All right. Next question comes from our good friend Sue B. in Florida.
Sue, wish we were there.
Have you ever considered building or using a router sled to flatten slabs or other things like cutting boards?
No. Why haven't I? Well, no. You know what? I don't think I ever have. Not that it's not a good idea, but you know, I remember being over in England in Alan Peters' shop, and he had wood cut for him, so he had big, huge slabs that were bigger than any small to medium shop is going to be able to handle in a thickness planer or a thickness sander. And I questioned him. He goes, well, he just said, just get up on there and I do it with a hand plane. I thought, well, if this guy in his 70s can do that, I certainly can. So you just go, once you learn how to sharpen, and the key has let you in the room that nobody else knows about, that is working with hand tools that are actually sharp, you can do anything like that. And so you know how to do that anyway, but just tackle it and go at it and sweat and enjoy the results when they're done. So no, I don't use sled. I usually just, from the time it would take to make the sled and set it up, I could probably get it done with a hand plane. Most people probably could do that, but very few people actually know how to sharpen. Gonna tell you a quick little story. So, can I wheel one of these things over without?
No, they're not on wheels.
Oh,
They drag it.
They did a wonderful job on the bench. So Jim Rossetti and his buddy came down, and prior to coming down, Jim had ordered a plane at 5.5. We'd been out of stock for almost a year, and we miraculously got, how many did we get in? 160 or something, Jake? Hello, Jake?
No, it was just 120.
120. And we offer a prep service, which I highly recommend if you buy it to get, because we go through and we square the sides the way we want them and do it all up, sharpen it, and you get it as if it was coming off of my bench. So Jim came down. Jim's a big, tall guy, retired air traffic controller, and he's organizing this New Brunswick group of the Bench Brigade. They've committed to making 10 benches a year for us. They've already delivered, I think, 4? 4?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he had bought a plane, had it prepped in advance, came down the other day, delivered the benches. We were chatting. We actually went over, got him his plane. He goes, well, I want to try this before I leave. So we went back into the shop, and Ken had a piece of wood already on his bench. And as Jim was just getting ready to do that, I think Ian, who was working on some saws, needed me for something, so I got pulled off to one side. And all of a sudden I hear this squealing, like a schoolgirl squeal. And it was Jim over there running the plane over that piece of wood, and he couldn't believe that that's the way it would actually cut. And I said, boy, if we could only put that somehow out there so that people would realize how a sharp hand plane is supposed to perform. If you've never had it properly sharpened, chances are you're digging holes in boards. And if you're off by yourself somewhere in the corner of the world where you don't have anybody that knows to show you, you're stuck in that situation as, well, how do I know that this is the way it should be? How do I know if this is sharp enough? So we provide this service so that you have a benchmark. Not because it's a money maker. In fact, if we figured out how much time we put in, we probably don't make anything on it. But we kind of see it as, rather than send a plane to someone in England or Australia or across Canada and have it show up and not be perfect and then have to go through that process, we say, you know what? We'll just take care of this part of it. But now you get this plane. It's been professionally sharpened, and you get a benchmark as to what sharp is. Anyway, if I only had Jim's squeal on video, I'd have made one. I'd have made an advertisement with it. Thanks, Jim. Next, Rick.
Okay, next one comes from Tommy R. in Oklahoma.
Hey, Tommy.
What width of board do you start with for your saw handles?
Well, we have 2 saw handles now. What do we need for? Well, here, I'll just go over and measure it, because Ahmed sends me.
Well,
My good friend Ahmed.
he said width. Did he mean width or did he mean thickness?
He meant width. So this all comes from Ahmed. He's forever sending us, here's a piece of snake wood. And I think this would be probably the best example. So we need 5.5 anyway. 5.5 in width. I'll actually take one of these up and I'll show you.
That's not a good example.
Huh?
That Bacote is not a good example.
No, I'll take this piece of king wood and this piece of Vera, if Dave will let me. So I have templates that are plexiglass, and the reason I have them. So these are the handles the custom handles that I make. which, by the way, we've changed the way we do that. We no longer offer just the handle. I make them as the saw, and that's how they go on the site, because I was getting too far behind with people wanting custom orders, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Jake, any idea where my template is?
No.
Son of a gun.
Santa Maria.
Huh? Well, I have a plastic template of the handle, and I can set it on the wood so that I can pick up the grain that I want. Just give me 1 second to look over here. I promise someday in the near future, I'm going to get this place cleaned up. Don't hold me to a date. And I can't find it. Well, I'll have to use my, I swear I had them right here. I'm going to make them their own little spot. Well, can't see through that one. But the only thing you have to make sure of is that the grain has to run in this direction through this part. So the grain runs like that on that piece of Vera wood. Then I could put one, and you can play with it a little bit. One right there. So that means you need to have a piece that is, that was 4.5. And then Ahmed sends them to us so that we can get at least a couple out of it. So that's where you end up having to play around with it a little bit. Yeah, right there, like this. So there's how I can get 2 out of that piece. And with my plexiglass one, I can move it a little bit so I can pick up, for instance, on that piece of kingwood, I've got some sapwood. I would want to be able to get a little bit of that sapwood in somewhere in there like that. So whatever the number I just gave you, that's what you need for width. And I may as well give you length too. So in order to get a saw handle, now this is my regular handle, you need to have 5 3/4. So 5 3/4 long by 4.5 wide, and 1 inch on the regular handle. The new handle, I'm going to find my templates for that too. My new handle with a 3/4 saw is a little bit smaller. Smaller because it's a smaller frame, so purposely made it smaller. I don't know where all that stuff is. I got to find it. It's around here somewhere. We'll get it. Here it is, right here, right in front of me. So this one, in case you're thinking of doing that, would fit in a space 4.5. So the same. I think the only we changed the size of this because it was a smaller blade, but the rest of it, and it's thinner. The new handles for the 3/4 saw are 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, next, Frick.
A couple more vets.
Who?
Well, Jeff O'Connor just showed up. He's a little late. Missed his shout out, but that's okay.
Well, Jeff, go back and rewind, and you'll.
If you're
hopefully,
needing an ego boost, jump back a couple minutes.
Yes, yes. And we still haven't told the hunting story of the great white hunter, Dave. But I told Jake he needs to call you and tell you that one.
Philip Lawrence and Jake Tarola are here as well.
Hey, Phil. Great to have you. And Jake Tarola, you owe us a song. Jake promised that he won the guitar that the East Tennessee Luthiers Guild built and donated the Purple Heart. And Jake received it, and he promised us to come on and do some singing. So we'll get that. I'll hold you to that.
He should sing the good old hockey game.
Yes. Yes, you go on YouTube and find Stompin' Tom Connors, the good old hockey game, and we'll expect to hear that one. That'll be my pick. Next one, Frank.
Mike in Oakland wants to know.
Hey, Mike. Didn't we just do Mike in Oakland?
Did we do a Mike in Oakland?
We did someone in Oakland.
We did someone in Oakland. Could be a different Mike.
There could be more than one.
Well, 3 at least. Do you plan on offering a thin marking blade to match your new 3/4?
Oh, yeah. So I just spoke with the guys the manufacturer is in Connecticut. So we have A sawtooth blade. Dick, can you give me a date on when we're going to have dovetail marking knives back in stock?
Before the end of the month.
Oh, my. So that's our dovetail marking knife. That blade is for the regular dovetail saw. We have a 19 thou blade that'll be for this one because this new little saw has a 15 thou blade, 2 thou set per side, gives you 19 thou, and it'll fit the same handle. So that's coming. We are also having made, or we will have to offer Kerf X10 with a 20 thou blade. Remember, 1 thou beyond the thickness of the kerf. So that's coming. And we have version 2 of the Sean Shim, which, by the way, Sean McDermott, who was a combat wounded vet, came to our second class. And this was Sean's. Sean was the inspiration behind this. And that's why we call it the Sean Shim. So version 2 will be the appropriate offsets for the new saw. And that's should have prototypes of those this week. Forgot to mention that. Thank you for bringing it up. Next, Frick.
Dan in Barcelona wants to know...
Barcelona, Spain?
Correct. Just
It's late.
an odd question, but he wants to know why you pull the plane shaving off and chuck it on the floor. Is that just a habit? Is there a reason you do it?
Well, so there's a couple of reasons, Dan. Number one, when I started, quick little history. I born in 1961, fell in love with wood in 1962. Grew up, my father was a carpenter contractor, so I grew up around tools and wood, and I had an affinity to it from the beginning, and I was always doing it from a little kid right on through. Went off to Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah in 1983, and spent 5.5 years there. I worked as Dale Nish's assistant, teaching assistant. Got a degree in industrial technology, minored in furniture design under Milo Bothman. Moved back to New Brunswick in 1989, which was home with my wife, and started my business. Took us 11 years to starve to death. By 1999, we were out of money, didn't know where the next dollar was coming from. Had all kinds of business, but just couldn't make ends meet building furniture. Where am I going with this?
Why do you throw this stuff on the ground?
Thank you. So, certain things happen in life for a reason. I was at a point where I really didn't know where to turn. Didn't want to leave my passion. Tom Lee Nielsen contacts me by email and says, hey, I heard about you. Would you be interested in selling our tools in Canada? I didn't think much of it. I had no idea who he was, but he's only 3.5 hours away. So I took an afternoon. I drove down to check out what he was saying. Really impressed with his tools. And on a handshake, I came home with a bunch of tools. I remember thinking Canadians are not going to spend this kind of money because at the time the Canadian dollar was only worth 60 cents US, which means the plane that you bought for $300, I had to sell for $484 here. But within a month, I was doing it full time because my excitement, their excitement, the demand was just a match made in heaven. So I started. I live in Canada. In case you don't know, largest country in the world geographically. But to get from one end to the other, you're going from the Atlantic coast, Halifax, all the way over to the Pacific coast, Victoria, BC. And I went to these wood shows where you met people over a 3-day period and introduced them to woodworking hand tools and hopefully sell them something. Well, when you're at a wood show, and they used to be really busy and people are streaming by, you got to catch their attention. And I found that if I had a piece of wood chucked in the, hold 1 second while I get a piece of wood. If I had a piece of wood chucked in the vise, now, if all I was doing was just planing away, it didn't do a whole lot to attract attention. But what I discovered was that if I grabbed that shaving and pulled it out got it to float in the air. What, Jake?
This was something Super Dave taught you?
Yes, yes. Back when he was just Super Dave, not before he was the goat.
While you're doing that, someone mentioned that doesn't dragging the plane backwards dull the blade?
Okay, let me address that in a second. So I would be there throwing these shavings in the air, and of course, people would be walking by and they'd stop. And as soon as they stopped, that was my signal to pounce. And I would grab the guy's arm and I would haul him in. Oh my goodness, the resistance I used to come up against. His wife would be saying, oh, go try it. And he'd get in there and put a little wax in the sole, and it would just put a grin on his face like he'd never had. And so that's the reason why I used to pull the shaving out. So that's certainly where the habit started. But the other thing, and addressing what he's just said, is that if you don't pull it out at the end, and I prefer to plane like this as opposed to lifting up, dropping down, lifting up, dropping down. So much easier just to stay in that groove. But see what happens if you don't pull the shaving out? It gets stuck on the bottom. And then you've got to turn it over and and the board and peel it off in order to get an accurate pass. So I always found it easier to simply discard it at the end, and I do it now without even thinking about it, and then you don't end up dealing with that issue. So what started off as a novelty has become a technique. Now, am I dulling the blade by pulling it back like that? Well, if you think about it, you know, the steel is obviously harder than the wood, but the blade eventually dulls as it cuts through the wood. So dragging it back like that, if you are dulling it, I don't think you're dulling it enough to warrant the inconvenience of doing this each time. If you watch my video, 32 seconds to sharp, if I can disassemble my plane, sharpen the blade, and get it back into working condition in under a minute, is it really that big of a deal? No. So I'll continue to do this method because I find it's the most convenient, and you get into that rhythm. And I think it's more important that you develop accuracy in planing than preserve the life of your blade by 10% by not dragging it back. And what I mean by that is, by moving forward and staying on that path, I've got a better chance of getting a nice square straight edge than if I'm lifting up and repositioning. Hey, where'd you go with my jacket?
Go outside, apparently.
So that's my answer to those two questions.
Oh, look. He's bringing it back.
Hey, can you tell us a little bit about that jacket? Do you like it? Does it keep you warm? What do we call it? What's your name? Are you going to start your own YouTube channel? No. Come on. We talked about it. No. What are we going to name it? Bouffon Boy? No, who cut your hair anyway with a knife? Your dad did. You tell him he needs to get a lesson. This is Cooper. He usually has a huge bouffon of hair. Just got it all cut off. But he wants to start his own website. And that's Bentley over there. Bentley's Frick's oldest.
And most troublesome.
Yes, yes. All right, Frick, next question.
Okay. Marcus in New Mexico.
Marcus?
Yes, sir.
In New Mexico.
He says,
I've never been to New Mexico. There's only a handful of states that I've never been to. New Mexico is one of them.
How does Rob keep the tools in his wooden tool cabinet from rusting, given that they are in a constant contact with wood shelves, tills, and holders?
Well, the temperature and the humidity in this room really does not change. We have a, what's that thing called? Split?
Heat pump.
Oh, it's a heat pump. And the heat pump controls both humidity and temperature. So the best bet of keeping your tools from rusting is to have them in a dry say
Controlled.
warm environment, controlled environment. So no problem at all. Now, if you have an issue, we have two things that you should use. One is the plain sack. We got them on our website. I don't have one here to show you because I don't need them. And it's a silicone impregnated tube sock. You put your plane in, pull the drawstring, no rust. What's really nice about it is when you need your plane, you take it out and there's no residue on your plane either. And if you do have rust, then we have these things called hand blocks that are made by Klingspor.
Yeah, but what are they called? They're called sand.
Well, if Luther would call them Sandiflex.
Yeah.
So it's a piece of rubber with a silicone carbide abrasive that goes all the way through it. So it's not like a piece of sandpaper where you just wear off the surface. You wear through the whole thing. It constantly works. 3 different grits, red, yellow, and green. The red is coarse, the yellow is fine, the green is medium, and the green matches the grind on most of your planes, chisels, and saws. If you use a fine one, it'll leave a shiny spot. If you use a coarse one, it'll leave a scratch spot. And if you use the green, it'll blend right in. Okay, next question, Frick.
Where'd I go?
You guys can ask questions of Frick and Jake, too, if you think they might be able to answer something for you. Not that I mind. Frick, we got a question coming?
Yeah. Kevin Kevin Windsor in Bethel, Maine says...
Kevin in Maine?
Yeah.
Hey,
He said, I've been trying to
Come
avoid...
visit.
What?
I told him to come visit.
Oh. I've been trying to avoid planer snipe by feeding boards on a slight diagonal, and it seems to be working. Have you tried this?
Yeah. It's just the best thing I've found for eliminating snipe on your thickness planer. Now, what Kevin's talking about is when you feed a board through a thickness planer, the thickness planer has what's called an in-feed roll. That's on the top. It's the first thing the board engages, and it's segmented or it's somehow grippy, and it's under power, so it'll pull the board in. Typically, you also have bottom rolls that keep the board just off of the base so that it reduces the friction. And then your board hits a pressure bar, and then the knife, and then another chip breaker on the backside, and then an outfeed roll. The problem is as you feed your board, it's going to go up onto the bed roll, and it's going to do this as it makes its way through, which ends up leaving areas where the board gets sniped, or the cutter, it lifts up in such a way that the cutter makes a little snipe on either end. It's a pain. Anyway, on my big planer in the other shop, I lowered the bed rolls and just keep it waxed, so it prevents that first bump and the last bump. We've just taken a piece of 1-inch MDF that was the width of the bed, waxed it all up, and put cleats on it so we could set it in there so the wood actually runs over the MDF, so it doesn't even because even if you lower your bed rolls, you've got big gaps that will allow the board to flex down into. But the MDF doesn't last very long. I suppose we could put some Formica on that and it might last a little bit longer, but I just don't know. I've never seen a plane of any brand that totally eliminated snipe. I've done what you do, and I'll do that to lessen it, put it on an angle or make sure the other board is right behind it, but you always end up getting some snipe. So you just kind of have to leave enough so that you can remove that with your hand plane. But it sure would be nice if you could make it all go away. Next one, Frick.
I think you need to clarify when you say ask Frick or Jake a question, because now people are asking me to sharpen a marking knife.
Well, should you want to ask Frick something that he has expertise in, what is that?
I don't know. Someone said they liked my YouTube page, so thank you for that, for remarks.
Your YouTube page?
Yep, someone is a fan of my YouTube page, so thank you.
I didn't know you had one.
Yes, I'm the tech guru.
He's one of 7.
Oh, YouTube. I was thinking.
I have 4,000 subscribers.
I was thinking. Excuse me. I was thinking .com.
Yeah.
Website. Yes, Frick Frick actually has a podcast,
Well,
used to anyway, on
it's been a while.
the tech guru, and he would very popular.
I used to be a regular guest on a local radio station, and then I turned it into a podcast. But I don't have enough time to work on it. Unfortunately, I'd like to. But anyway, so
Cool Ray is on.
Cooper's going to take over.
yeah,
Cool Ray.
Cool Ray's on.
Cool Ray's here.
Hey Ray, how you doing, brother?
All right, Chaz Abel in Orlando.
Hi, Chaz.
He wants to know, what are your thoughts on using ash or hickory for a benchtop, vice face, or other parts?
The only problem with ash, hickory, oak, it's a very open porous wood, and it'll get filthy dirty and look terrible. I'm just trying to think. If you've got an oak floor, you know what oak floors look like, because of that spring wood. The wood that grows in the spring is very, very fast growing, big straws, and it just, if you looked at it under a microscope, your wood comes along like this, and you've got this half straw, half straw, half straw, half straw, half straw, and then back into summer wood, which is much smaller, tighter growth, and dirt gets down in there. Same on your bench. I would not recommend it.
Even for hickory?
Huh?
Even.
Hickory too. I mean, hickory wouldn't be as bad as ash or oak, but that's why I like to stick with beech, maple, birch. Better woods for that. Not that the appearance is that big of a deal, but may as well have it looking nice. And if you have a question for Jake, and Jake knows as much about this. In fact, Jake does most of the sharpening, so don't hesitate to ask Jake his opinion on something as well. And Bentley, do you have an area of expertise that you could lend?
Gaming. He's what they call a sweat.
A sweat?
Yeah.
A sweat?
Yeah.
That's what they call it?
That's what they call yeah, it is. That's what they call these 12-year-old boys that are online playing these video games.
Sweats?
Because they wear sweats.
Oh, a Johnner. Next one, Frick.
I thought I had a question for Jake, but they all want to see me cut a dovetail.
So does Super Dave. So does the goat.
They really do want to turn it into a Saturday
Someone
Night
wants me to
Live.
cut a dovetail in a brisket. I think that'd be easier for me, honestly. Next question comes from Vladimir Lodholm in Seattle, Washington.
Vladimir, Seattle.
What do you do? What do you do to care for and maintain your sharpening station?
Look at it. I don't do anything. It just sits there and collects. And Jake likes his sharpening stuff, and I like mine, so that's why it's even messier, because Jake needs to get his own bench. But that's, I really don't. I blow it off when I need to use it, and I keep everything there, and I'm not a neat freak by any stretch. I just walked by the Moose Shrine again, patssecretgarden.com. Please show him some love. Moose has been in a bad way for a week. Hopefully he's on the mend. And I love that board that, up against the backdrop of that board that Bob did for Moose. Moose hasn't seen it yet because he's been in the hospital, and with COVID, nobody can get and visit. So, but I'll get it to him ASAP, Bob. Wonderful gesture, too, of you. Next, Frick.
Christian Estrada in Guatemala. Do you have any tips for
Christian?
Do you have any tips for cutting large holes in a board? I have to cut a 22-centimeter round hole for a piece of glass.
A large hole in a board, 22 centimeters, which would be, what's 22 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters to an inch. Something approximately that big in diameter. I would, and if you want a nice perfect hole, how would I do that? Problem, so, if you're doing it a lot, you're going to jig it up. If you're only doing it one time, the question is always, well, without putting a ton of effort into this, how do I do it quick? I would probably use a jigsaw first to cut inside the line, and then you've got to go in and clean it up. The first thing that comes to mind is I would take a piece of plywood, and using a trammel point or using a nail and a piece of string and a pencil, and I would draw that circle, And that circle would be the size of the hole that I need, plus the distance from the outside of the router base plate to the center of the bit. The idea was, I would take this big template, set it down, and then I could use my router to go in there and follow the outside and trim it. But that means that you'd have to, you still have to make that big circle perfect, and you're not going to get that perfect without doing some handwork. Is there a better way? Still think you're going to want to remove the bulk of it. You're going to want to remove the bulk of it with a jigsaw. It's the easiest way I would think. But then somehow you've got to go in and you've got to get that circle perfect. And to try to get inside of a 10-inch diameter hole with hand tools would be very difficult. Even with you could possibly use a spoke shave, but I would probably use my router. And if it had a round base, I would make that big plywood template, which would be a larger diameter, a little bit easier to work. That's probably how I would do it. And then you use your fingers. You use your fingers to find any variation in the circle. I tell the boys when we're making saw handles, I always take a couple of fingers and I run them over any of those curved surfaces, and you should never find a flat spot. And you eventually train your hand to be able to detect that nice flow. And if there's a little point or a flat spot, you'll find it. Same with this. So on a big radius, I would use 3 or 4 fingers and I would run them around in there, and you'll get to a point where you can actually tell where any variation in that nice, or any variation to that nice radius. Hope that made sense. Next, Rick.
Tim has made a good suggestion. We have almost 800 viewers and very few likes, so he wants you to tell everyone to smash that like button.
What does that do for me? Us.
Promotes the video.
Oh, does it?
Makes it more visible.
Okay. So everybody that's watching right now, where's the like button?
Right underneath the video.
Right underneath the video, it says like. Just do me a favor.
Smash it.
Press like.
No, you got to smash it. That's what YouTubers say.
Smash it?
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Now, since we're getting close, I have no idea how much we've raised tonight, but we're going to give away some stuff. I want to mention.
What are we giving out?
Well, the big prize is going to be Bob's cutting board. And Bob, I hope you don't take offense to this, because you're going to make me another one, and that one's not going out until you do, because I want to have that around to promote. So at the 1,000 mark, we'll give away that cutting board. At the 2,000 mark, we'll give away that smaller board. At the 3,000 mark and beyond, we'll give away one of our new saw. Oh, is Dave on tonight?
Yeah.
Super Davis. And
now, if we raise $150,000, we'll give away Super Goats.
This is on
custom.
loan.
What?
It's on loan from the Smithsonian.
It's on loan from the Smithsonian. Super Dave made this box for when we went to the wood shows. We would have a place to put in
Do you
the.
want to show them the joinery?
No, I don't think so. This is where they would, if they were signing up for a draw, they would put this in here. And I guess it's camouflaged?
Yeah.
It's camouflaged.
I mean, I think the fact that you had to ask.
we can't see it.
We can't give that away. We can't give it away. We haven't even shown the. We broke that record?
Yeah, and we didn't show it. We should.
Okay, we have a special treat for you in 2 weeks. A very special treat. The Art of Seduction. We'll leave it right there. So, back to what I was saying. Please visit the Vintage Veteran.com. That's Bob's site. And he's made up a bunch of stuff in advance, so you'll be ready and play it in time for Christmas. Take a look. Throw Rob some love. I think he does excellent work. I look at this and I see the amount of work, and I think, that's crazy. I wouldn't make that for 4 times that price. Bob, you got to raise your price. And then you got to go find Jeff O'Connor, and you got to find Jeff on, what's that called?
Etsy?
No, what's a...
Instagram?
What? Instagram. Go on Instagram, O'Connor Woodworking. And if you didn't go back and listen to my story about what this shave brush made out of bog oak means to me every week, when Bo gives me the hot towel treatment and gives me a shave, it's highlight of my week. And Kevin Burris, if you go to burriswoodworking.com, check out what Kevin's doing. He specializes in urns, and he can do a lot of amazing things with, and he's got this laser engraver thing down. And we'll add, if you are a combat wounded vet that has been to our class, and you're trying to kickstart your business, contact me so that we can put you on that new page that we're going to develop, where we're going to give you a bit of a platform, and we'll talk about your work when we do this as well, because you guys deserve it. All the guys I'm working with right now are all retired or soon to be retired, and they're trying to transition into running a business. And you know what? Being an entrepreneur, as exciting as it is, can be tough. You're the man. You're the guy that's got to make it work. And we're about to embark on a journey that's just going to be fantastic. So I'll leave it at that. And don't forget Moose, patsecretgarden.com. I keep thinking there's somebody else that I wanted to give a shout out to.
Danny Bell is here, by the way. I didn't. We
Brother,
talked
Dan,
about him
how are
earlier,
you?
but
We'll be in touch soon. Danny Bell in Maine. You could have gone to visit him today, Frick. You were in Maine. So was Jake. But just across the border. Next question, Frick. Any more combat wounded vets to shout out to?
nope. But I will say, everybody, to make sure to get into the draw. We're going to be having that soon. Luther will post the link. It's coming, and
Danny's girls are saying hello to you.
Remind me their names. Bella? No. The girls. Danny has twin girls. Beautiful girls. Blondes. Fortunately, they got their looks from their mother. Hi, ladies. Nice to see you. Say hello to Stinker for me. Any more questions, Frick?
Yeah. If you could only, this comes from Jerry Staub in Brighton, Tennessee. If you could only afford one mortise chisel at a time, what size would it be?
Okay, so here's the order I'd get them in. Of course, what you want to do is you want to take a look at what do I do? Well, I build stuff mostly with 3/4 material. So if you're using 3/4 material, chances are your mortise is going to be 1/4 inch. So first one I would buy would be the 1/4 inch. What's the second most common dimension? Oh, Danny's daughters. I can see them. But you know what, girls? All of my kids wear name tags because I can't remember their names either. So that's my excuse. Second most common dimension you're going to work is 1.5 inches. So on 1.5 inch stock, using the third rule, your mortise is going to be 1/2 inch. So 1/4 inch first, 1/2 inch second purchase. Third would be my 3/8. Those are going to cover the bases. And then there is a 7/16, there's a 5/16, and there's a 3/16. I always like to have a mortise chisel one size down from the mortise. When you're going in there and you're trying to remove the bits that are cut free but they're jammed, if you're using a 1/2 inch mortise chisel and a 1/2 inch mortise to do that, it's just too much of a tight squeeze. Go to a 7/16 and it gives you all the strength you need, because a beveled edge will bend or flex. But the 7/16 will allow you that little bit of room. Now, you don't necessarily have to have, hi honey, 3 different, you don't have to have a 5/16, a 7/16, and a 3/16, but have at least, 5/16 at a minimum. But you may as well get them all. They're a lovely set. Next, Frick. By the way, they did, our mortise chisels are fantastic. Absolutely. And precise. We made sure of that.
Another one from Jerry in Pennsylvania. What type of non-carbide bandsaw blades do you use, specifically for resawing?
What type of non-carbide bandsaw blades do we use? I'm really impressed with the Starretts that we buy from, where did we get them, Jake? Starrett? Or direct from Starrett?
Yeah.
Starrett blades out of Connecticut, I think. Been really impressed with them. I think that's what we've been using mostly. lasts a while. Exclusively. Yeah.
Herbie in England.
Herbie?
Any tips on sharpening
Your
molded plane blades which have contours, such as on the Stanley 405?
Sorry, sharpening plane blades that have contours or a profile?
Molded plane blades which have contours, such as
Well,
the Stanley.
ideally, you're just going to flatten you're just going to polish the back. But if they get chewed up, you've got to go in and do something on the bevel. That's a little bit dangerous because you've got to maintain that profile. The best way to do it is take a wooden dowel and wrap a piece of emery cloth or a piece of sandpaper that's designed for metal around that and go in there and touch that up. But that's, it's tricky. You want to maintain the bevel so you have your clearance. You can't get your bevel up too high because then you lose your clearance that you need. Remember, you can never have, none of the bevels underneath can exceed the angle of attack, meaning the blade is sitting on a 45-degree frog. You have to stay below 45 degrees on all of your sharpening on your bevels, secondary, tertiary. So it's a bit of a task to do something like that. I should probably do that some night. Next, Rick.
Let's wrap it up. I closed the questions.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, that was a little.
Yeah, but by the time
preemptive.
you're done your little spiel and we do the draw and
All right. What's my little spiel?
say goodbye to everybody.
I say goodnight.
We are at about $1,500 for donations.
So we're only giving away the one gift. Well, we're giving away three sweaters. Whether it's your choice. Ooh. The happy sweater for the kids. The dead cat with the logo, and it's still not too late to get a golf shirt with the Purple Heart logo as well. We'll give away 3 of those, and then we'll give away Bob's beautiful cutting board. I forget what he calls that one, but it makes me dizzy when I look at it, but I still like it.
Don't forget about the free shipping discount. Luther will post it in
the
chat.
Yeah. How long's that going on for?
Another 5 days.
So right now, we have, as one of our Christmas specials, free shipping on all orders
over
$100 in North America. Sorry, my friends in Europe. It would drain us if we did that. So if you're in Canada, United States, your order's over 100, it's free shipping. Luther will put the details up on there. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget our newsletter. Luther puts a lot of work into that, and we always make it content rich. We usually advertise one thing in there, but there's always a topic. We shoot a video specific to that topic. Luther usually writes an article on it. So join the newsletter and have an extra source of information. Your combat wounded vet, we salute you. This is the month of November. We just had our Remembrance Day ceremony and Veterans Day in the United States. We didn't get to do what we want because of this, our COVID thing, but we were not forgetting it. Luther's working on it. Sometime between now and the end of the year, we will present that, and you will be thrilled. What else? You ready to do the draw, Frick?
I am.
Big shout out to my daughter Erica, who did the meal for us tonight. Fabulous food. Absolutely fabulous. In fact, we're going to have apple cobbler right as soon as this is done.
Right now.
Wish you were here. Actually, I don't, because you didn't make enough.
All right, let's go. You can look at the other camera now. Jake can have a nap. So your chances of winning this evening are 1 in 649. And what are we giving away first?
Giving away first, your choice, dead cat, happy sweater, or the golf shirt, the Purple Heart golf shirt. You just need to contact us and tell us the size and, of course, what your choice is.
All right, winner number 1 is...
Drum roll.
David Pisarski in California.
Hey, David in California, congratulations. Number 2.
Number 2 is... Lisa Allman in St. John, New Brunswick. I actually work with Lisa at Costco.
Really?
Yeah. Her
she'll love that.
Her husband's a big fan, so...
Hey, Lisa. Congratulations. I'm sorry you have to work with Rick, and especially he's back on Monday, but
Someone actually asked me in the chat what I do at Costco because they're an employee as well, and
We'd like to know, what do you do at Costco?
I work in human resources and payroll. So my responsibility is to pay all 380 some employees.
And when was the last time you went to work?
October 26th.
Okay. So nobody's been paid since then.
No, even though I'm the healthiest. All right, next winner is Ken K from, it just says Ken in USA.
Ken in USA, congratulations. Okay, so who gets this? By the way, this cutting board of Bob's, this is the vintage veteran.com, Bob Abbott, affectionately known as Bobbert. It's just shy of 2 inches thick. It is 12 3/4 long and 8.5 wide. And my guess is it weighs close to 5 pounds. Made out of walnut, cherry, and maple.
He says you better buy another one soon so you get it, so you can send that one out.
No, I'm not sending this one out until he sends me another one.
Well, he won't send you another one unless you buy another one, is what he's saying.
Well, of course I'm buying another one.
Just wants to make sure you place that order, that's all.
Yes. Consider it ordered, Robert.
All right,
Robert.
the winner of that
Where is this going?
This is going
Hasn't been used, by the way.
to Jeff Church in the United States.
Hey, Jeff. We know Jeff Church, don't we, Jake?
Yes. Jeff
Yes.
is the UPS pilot.
Oh, Jeff. Hey, brother. Yeah. Jeff arranged to have a bench made for one of our combat wounded vets in Hawaii through his work, UPS. They picked it up at their expense, delivered it